Hello, this is Paulette Downey, and I'm back again with a message from the Lord. So, this is week 9 of the Ten Commandments, and so I'm going to be reading off of the verse, which is in Exodus 20. And let me just figure out the verse number. So, chapter 20. So, chapter 20, and it is verse 16. You must not testify falsely against your neighbor. Okay. Basically, what that means is lying on people. So, who is your neighbor? Your neighbor is everyone who is alive and everyone who has left this world. So, it means everyone. So, if they're in this world living right now, and if they had lived in this world previously, it means everyone. So that is who your neighbor is. Do not lie on anyone. This is a big one. Of course, that's why it's in the Ten Commandments. It is throughout the Bible. God talks about it repeatedly. He talks about the consequences as a result of lying on people. It is something he cannot stomach. He cannot stand liars, and he cannot stand people who lie on people. He can't stand it. And so this one is a huge one. What ends up happening is when people lie on people, many things can happen as a result of that. You can have a person, relationships are destroyed as a result of someone lying on a person. Jobs are lost. Friendships are lost. People are put into isolation. People become, like I said, they become jobless. They become homeless because of lies. People end up in mental asylums because people lie on them. People end up in prison because of lies. People end up dead. Because of lies, either they could commit suicide, and depending on the lie, someone could kill them as a result of lies. So lies, there are a string of things that can happen to an individual as a result of someone simply lying on them. Now the mouth, oh my goodness, it's like the Bible talks about it, like a rudder. Like, I mean, it is so small, and yet it can cause so much damage. It can reach so much damage and devastation, wreak so much damage and devastation in someone's life as a result of someone simply lying, as a result of someone just opening their mouth and saying a whole bunch of horrible things that are simply untrue. And usually, like, the root of people lying on people, usually it does stem from jealousy and hatred. It could, sometimes it could be a form of vengeance. The person feels that they've been wrongly done. So, as a way to get back at someone, then they're going to lie on someone, which really, again, is stemming from, like unforgiveness in the person's heart, a lot of unbrokenness. You're dealing with an unbroken person, a person who has not forgiven people for their past sin. People, has not forgiven people. It could be like the things that they haven't forgiven people for are things that could be they could be justified in their they're not justified in their unforgiveness, but they're justified in the offense, so to speak. Like, there was a just reason why someone did something. But, there are oftentimes what happens is people are upset with people who did nothing wrong to them. They feel as if it's an offense. But just because we feel something is an offense, that doesn't mean it's an offense. There are a lot of things that people get offended by that are not offenses. And it's just that some people, again, they're more touchy-feely, and they're very sensitive, and anything that they don't like, anything that they're hearing that they don't like, it doesn't feel good to them, then they take it on as, like, this person is attacking me, this person is a mean person, this person is not a nice person, and I can't forgive them for what they said, even if what they've brought to them is a correction, even if what was brought to them was actually true. With some people, if they don't like what is being said to them, then they take offense to it. And depending on the person, they may even lash out at that person by lying on them. But regardless of your feelings, it is a sin to lie. And like I said, it's usually like the things like jealousy and revenge or anger or whatnot. It's usually always it's always tied up. Like, it's usually anger and jealousy. It's usually never just one, depending if they know the person, because you have people who don't know people and they lie on them, and they don't know them. Like, they have no connection with the individual. And I'm going to talk about that. Like, I'm actually going to, talk about people who actually, because there is a difference. There is a difference between lying on someone that you know and lying on someone that you don't know. Like, there's a huge difference. And I am going to get into that. But like I said, lying on anyone. This is basically what the Bible is talking about when it says, do not lie on your neighbor. Do not make false testimonies on your neighbor. Anyone and everyone who is alive, and anyone and everyone who is now dead. You don't do that. So, like, it's interesting. I find that with testifying falsely. It's an interesting thing how we, as a culture, we don't want to be gossiped on or lied on, but we'll listen to people, gossip and lie about other people. And, like, there are people who even make a living for this. Like, you even have people who actually make a living gossiping about people. And obviously there's an audience, obviously there's a demand, because if there wasn't a demand, then you wouldn't have these people listening to the gossip. Like, I mean, like, they wouldn't be around. They wouldn't, like, there has to be a demand in order for there to be people who actually, sit down and listen to people gossip about people. But, the problem with that is when you're listening to people gossip about people, a lot of times the things that they're talking about aren't true, or they're half truths or whatnot. And so that's the problem when you're dealing with with gossip, because it's usually like passed on from one person to another person to another person to another person. So this is the problem when you are listening to gossip. And depending on who you're listening to it from, like, depending on the credibility or the source, you may be getting the gossip from somebody who hates the person so much that they're making lies up on the person, and then they tell someone else that story, and then it goes on to another person and another person, and of course it takes on its own life. Like, it just doesn't, like, it takes on its own life, and then the story is started off as a half lie, and then it ends as a complete lie about the individual. So that is the problem when gossiping, and when gossiping about people, it usually ends up turning into lies. Like, some of the gossip is lies. Lots of the gossip, when people are gossiping, it is lies. So it's very important that we guard our like what comes into us, and learn how to just not listen to gossip, because the less in demand it is, the less people will gossip. And so knowing your source, because one thing I've also noticed, and I'm going to go more into this, but one thing I've also noticed is that, and I mean, I would find this strange, but I mean, this is it's a phenomenon that I'm seeing here. People, like, you can be connected with someone, like, you know the person, and then, someone who doesn't, and that person, say, hates one person, and one of the people, and what there's someone, a third party, who hates one of the two people who are connected, friends, whatever, and then the third party knows this, so they will go to the one of the parties, and they don't know the person, but they don't even know the person. But and that person will go and just talk about the person they're connected to, and the other person just believes it, and they don't even know that person. Like, they know the person that they're receiving the information about, but they don't know the person who is giving it to them, and they're gullible enough to simply just take in that information from a complete stranger. And I just find that that is fascinating, that someone would take the word of someone they don't know and and just believe information. Like, I find it bizarre that someone would even want to talk to someone who they don't know about someone who they do know. I find that really bizarre. I find that, like for me, it's just a bizarre a thing, like, if, someone were to come up to me and, start trashing someone that I know, and I don't know that person, and then they start trashing them, and then I just believe it, and then have an opinion negative about the person who I know. I think I'd find it kind of strange that someone who doesn't know me at all would have the audacity to come up to me and trash someone who I know. But that's just me. That's just me. But I do believe that all of us, I will include myself here, that at times, you become gullible and you believe this nonsense about people when they when they say negative things about other people. And I find for myself that that has happened. And really, it's because of my prayer life. And really and truly, it is only because of my prayer life that I have to take it back to God and, like, ask God for clarity. Because if not for that, I would believe a lot of the lies that come at me. Like, some of them are they're so well told, like, they're so well told. The storytelling in them is just, you cannot help but believe them. So I even find myself, at times being drawn into, certain things that are being said, and it's only because of my relationship with God that I then have to take it back to Him and say, okay, God, like, like, clarity here. And so, like, because of that, then he balances the scales, so to speak, and speaks truth into me about a situation or about an individual. So that's why we have to be really vigilant, and when we are presented with stuff, especially when it's harmful stuff, especially when it's negative stuff, especially when it's slander, especially when it's slander and it's like, just speaking negatively and badly about people. We really have to just say, okay, God, is this, like, let me know, is this real, is this true? And God will reveal the truth to you. So, but it's, like, if it's just like, someone had a hot dog on the corner street or something, I don't care, but when someone is speaking poorly about someone, and just saying false things about them, and evil things about them, you then have to question, is this real? Is this really real? What is being said here? And like, just take it back to God. Like, don't fall for it. Don't go there. But just take what you are receiving, as like is what I'm hearing, is what is being said to me, is this really true? Is this really factual? And why is this information coming at me? Why am I receiving this? Because I'm not even asking to receive this. I'm not even looking for this information. I'm not asking for it. Why is it coming to me? So you have to question that. Like, why are certain things coming at you that you're not even asking for? People talking negatively, talking poorly about people, and you're not even asking for the information. I'm not even asking for it. I'm not even looking for it, and it's coming to me. Why is this coming to me? And that's when I really question when certain things are coming to me, and that's when discernment has to kick in. Why is this information which I did not seek, which I did not look for, which I did not ask for? Why is this information being fed to me? And it's not good information that is being fed to me. And so we must question, we should question when people are speaking negatively against people. What is their motive? What is their reasoning? What is their agenda? Because if someone is just coming out with a whole bunch of horrible things to say about someone, and if they continue to do it, there's an agenda, there is a reason. And it's because they want to, in most cases, tear that person down. And in most cases, it's coming from a place of jealousy. It's coming from a place of hatred, because usually hatred and jealousy, they go hand in hand, usually. But these are the places when people, or it could also be a hatred, jealousy, positioning. A person can have a certain standing in the community, they can have a certain job, and someone may want that kind of status that that person has. And so in order to make themselves look presentable or get attention, because you're not looking presentable. There's no way you're looking presentable. But they want to destroy that person's image. And in hopes, somehow, some warped way, they think that by trashing a person and making a person look bad, that all who they're saying it to are going to go, oh my gosh, look at you. Aren't you just divine? You just trash this woman to bits. You just trash this man to bits. You just shred them right in the shredder. You annihilated any kind of perception I have of them. And for that, I'm now going to, you know what? We're all going to just look up to you now. You're such an evil person. You're so evil with everything that you said about that person. So now we're going to take you on board. And we are going to now look up to you. No one does that. No one does that. It's just something that is not going to happen. But because, of course, like I said, these people are unhealed. These people are broken. These people, they're unhealed. They're broken. A lot of unforgiveness. Someone like this, I would think someone like this is more of a psychopath. When you're getting into that kind of lying on people, falsely accusing people of things, and saying things about them. You are dealing with someone, and who continues to do that, you're dealing with someone who has and that's like, when I say psychopath, I mean, we're talking about like psychology, like from a secular point, how the world looks at, disorders. Mental disorders, because it is a mental disorder, to trash someone and continue to do that, and to continue to just say negative things. This is not something healthy people do. People who are coming from a healthy place do not set out to destroy a person's life. They don't do that. Anyone who's coming from a healthy place is going to set out to destroy a person's connections, a person's relationships, a person's finances, a person's standing, a person's mental health. No one with any kind of, like, if they're coming from a healthy place, that's not something that people do. So, but from the point of a Christian, like for we as Christians, this is demonic. These are demons. These are demons. As a result, and the demons, what has happened is simply these people are broken, unhealed people. And as a result of them, they basically allowed this darkness to take over them. And we have to stop saying, I'm going to be very honest and I'm going to be very frank here. There are, and there's a saying, and it's basically, everyone has good traits. Like everyone has, we can always find something nice to say about everyone. God has created every single one of us, every single one of us. God has created us with traits that are beautiful. He has created every single one of us with beautiful traits in which we would be able to point out and say to somebody, oh, this person is good at this, and this person is so wonderful like this, and this person is so great this way or that way or another way. God has created all of us, with beautiful traits. But what happens in life is life happens. And depending on how people deal with the issues that have come up against, that they have come up against, and depending on how people deal with the issues of life and with what comes up, what they are faced with, how they deal with it, that determines whether those traits get pushed aside or brought out to light. Now, in a lot of cases, or not a lot of cases, but there are some people, they're broken, they hate, they're unforgiven, and they've allowed this darkness to come in. And there are some people that honestly, I've seen it. There are some people where I honestly can't say I see any good in them because they have been taken over completely by darkness. And they themselves, if the darkness was removed from them, then they would be that person that God has created them to be, that beautiful person who God has created them to be, with beautiful traits which they can share with the world, share with their community. But because of their brokenness and the darkness that they've allowed into their lives, they have now become a shell. They are just simply a shell of themselves, and what has now occupied them is nothing but darkness and demons. So as a result, they are not all sunshine and beauty. Now, they may portray that because they know they cannot present themselves as someone with horns on their head because people will run from them. So they will portray of themselves and tap into their strength that God has given them and portray that niceness or portray the good traits in them, which God has given them. But what they're doing is they're using that as a means to an end. They're using that to get their way, to do whatever it is they want to do in other people's lives. But they're using those traits, those character traits, to their advantage, to weave themselves into people's lives so that they can do the damage, such as lying and gossiping and whatnot, and then be believed. We've got to stop saying that everyone, and like at our core, yes, at our core, God has made all of us with good traits. All of us. But unfortunately, some people have been taken over by darkness. Some people have allowed demons to live in them to the point where the person that God has created no longer exists. That person doesn't exist. That person is gone. And now you are dealing with someone who is being guided by demons. So we have to, so yes, there is that. And I felt that we need to get that in there, because you have people who are, they spread lies, and they wreak havoc on so many other lives as a result of it. And it's not, you know what it is, it's not like there's a whole bunch of these people. It's not like there's a whole army of these people. But it doesn't take much. It doesn't take that many people to do damage to an entire community, to do damage to a county or a city. It doesn't take that many people. We don't need an army to do that. You just need enough. And so it's not like there's a whole bunch of these people running around, but there are a lot of them. And like I said, it depends. Like some of them, well, anyway, yeah, but it's not like it's a whole bunch. Most people, your average person isn't going around, slandering people, lying on their neighbors to the point of destroying their lives. Most people aren't doing that. Most aren't. But there are enough who are doing that can cause devastation for a community. And so I just want to get that clear, that it's not like a whole big bunch of people, but it's just there's enough. But your average person, the average, the average, the medium of people, no, you don't have that. They may, no one's perfect, but I mean, you're not to the point where they're destroying lives. So I went in. I can go on. I can go on with this one. So you have, so what I like to think of, and before I was, you know what, I'm just going to kind of go, take this, and I speak, I was thinking about Stephen. Stephen in the Bible. So this is in the book of Acts, and this is Stephen who was a martyr. He died a martyr, and who was a holy man, just a holy man in all ways. And he was chosen as one of the seven. I believe it was one of the pastors who helped with giving out food and everything, and he knew the word well, and. He, whoever talked with him about the Bible, he could out-talk them on the Bible. He knew the Old Testament. He knew it right down to a science. And so there were these group of men who were jealous of him because they could never, ever, they could never match what it was that he had to say. He could always, basically point out everything in the Bible and everything in the Old Testament. And so they were jealous. They were jealous of his talent and his ability and his knowledge of the Bible, and his relationship with God. So what did they do? So they went out there and they spread lies on him. They spread so many lies. Actually, I'm going to go into the Bible and get this one quickly. So this one we are going to find in Acts. I'm going to just quickly go here. I'm going to go to Acts, and this is, bear with me, so Stephen, okay, so basically here, 7 men chosen to serve, so Stephen was one of them, and then and we talked about, okay, so I just want to go, okay, so Stephen, a man full, so Acts, chapter 6, Verse 8. Stephen, a man full of God's grace and power, performed amazing miracles and signs among the people. But one day, some men from the synagogue of freed slaves, as it was called, started to debate with him. They were Jews from Cyrene, Alexandria, Sicilia, and the province of Asia. None of them could stand up against the wisdom and the spirit with which Stephen spoke. So they persuaded some men to lie about Stephen, saying, "We heard him blaspheme Moses and even God." Um, so, so so this roused the people, the elders, and the teachers, and the religious laws. So they arrested Stephen and brought him before the high council. The lion witnesses, "This man is always speaking against the holy temple and against the law of Moses. We have heard him say that Jesus of Nazareth will destroy the temple and change the customs Moses handed down to us." So this man was killed. He was stoned to death as a result of those lies. They were all lies. Not one shed of truth. They were all lies. And this is what happened. And I mean, there are lots of stories. You know, what Jezebel did as well. That's another one. Naboth's vineyard had him killed as well. That was another one at the hand of Jezebel. So you know, these are the things that people do. So this has been going on from the beginning of time, where people who are jealous of people, or if they want, as a Naboth situation, Ahab wanted his vineyard, and so Jezebel said, "Okay, that's okay. I'll take care of it," and she did. And so, if it's property, or if it's money, or if it's whatever it is, or if they're just jealous, like in the case with Stephen, people make up complete and total lies on someone. Make sure to get them, destroy the reputation, or in these gentlemen's cases, get them killed. And this is all because of people falsely lying on their neighbor. So, you know, there is one thing, you know, because this is another thing that I'm seeing. And I think it's because, I don't know if it's because of social media or what, I don't know. I think, you know, partly it is because of social media, where you do have people who don't even know people. They don't even know them, and they're lying on them. They don't know them. And I'm going to talk about that one. But now I'm going to talk about people who lie on people who they know, because there's a difference. It's one thing, it's not right, it isn't right, but it's one thing when someone lies on you when they know you. That is one thing. I mean, at least there's a history there. You know, there's a history, there's a connection. There's a relationship that is built. Now, it's not right, but again, you know the people that you know the person who you're lying on. And so I'm gonna give a story about myself. I'm gonna give a story about myself. So I wrote, and I don't know, maybe many of you know, that, you know, like I am a writer. I am a writer, and so like I have an associate's degree in public relations. Anyone who does not know the role of a public relations person, so basically like with PR, you know, like you deal with external client, external stakeholders, internal stakeholders, and so because you're dealing with, you know, both stakeholders, a lot of it is communications. So because you're dealing with external stakeholders, you are dealing with the media. So basically, and internal, of course, communication. So communications is the center of a PR person. So PR person is it's communication. So, you know, a large portion of that is writing. So we are trained as journalists. So we are the same way a journalist would be trained to write. We are trained to write as well. So the journalist, books, all the manuals from journalism. So all of that, same. And then of course there are other things because we are working in the business world, so we have the whole business writing and things that you deal with when you are working for a company, internal stakeholders. So you have that side as well. So but there's that whole media element where you are dealing with the media. And of course like in my jobs in the past, I have dealt with the media where I've written like media releases for events that I've planned, lots of media releases for events that I planned. So that established, like I basically I write. But not all people, not all journalists are creative writers. So they can write books and everything, but not all journalists, not all people who have that, that discipline, that skill, can actually do the creative. Creative writing is completely different from, journalistic writing or, business writing. It's completely different, and you're tapping into different skill sets. So but I can actually do I can do both. So of course with someone who can do both, I don't need like I don't need a ghostwriter, or I don't need anything like that, because I've got the technical side, but I also have the creative side. So I have written, like I've written a book. I've always wanted to write a book about children, always. And my story began in 2002 about a little girl, a little African girl. But then, I went back to school and, like then work and everything. So I didn't really have that time. So in 2007, I dedicated myself to writing the story, and then I had a writer's block. So I had a writer's block, and but for the little girl. But then I got the story about the little boy who's named Declan. So I just had the story, and the information just started flowing out of me for him. And so that took me about 6 months to write that book. And 3 months of the 6 months of writing that book, 3 months, like it took 6 months to write it. 3 months of the 6 months, I hope I'm just not going on too long about this, but anyway, I'm going somewhere, was the event, because I am an event planner. I'm an event planner. So 3 months I actually wrote for a chapter called Boo, It's Halloween. It took me 3 months to write that chapter because of my, like my previously, I mean, I'm not planning events right now, but I'm a certified event planner. So it's not, like I am an event planner, even though it's not something that I am doing right now. Like I'm not working